Vincent Van Gogh, people told him, you can't be a great painter, you only have one ear. You know what he said? I can't hear you.
Listening to Sippin' Sports, a Phillies sports talk morning show with Chris, KJ, and Dalt. Proudly powered by 302 Birds. Let's take it to the show.
What is going on, everybody? Welcome to another morning episode of 302 Birds. As you guys can see, KJ and I are right now in the Bat Cave, just hanging out, aka in the 302 studio, and Chris is at his studio right now. Everybody's getting all studioed out. How you doing tonight, Chris?
Hey, first time here in the new house doing a show, so I'm excited. This isn't going to be a normal backdrop. We're at the bar right now. My dumbass forgot to buy a office chair, so I don't have a chair yet for my desk. So we're sitting here at the bar on one of the bar stools. But I like the aesthetic here right now. I'm actually digging this. I might do this more often. So
you should, maybe for drinking pods or Friday nights. You can just, sit back, chill on a drink. I know that's what KJ's doing. That's what you're doing. Surfside, stateside. If you guys want to sponsor us, just call me up. I'll literally back your brand every day.
Dude, you don't even need to pay me. Just send me fucking alcohol. That's all I need.
Just send us the alcohol, literally, like Chris said. But Chris, getting into our first topic, my man, I'll go ahead and let you take this first. Let's just get the bad part of the show out of the way in the beginning. Phillies slump, man. It's been ugly.
Dude, like it's really, really frustrating, and it feels just like the Eagles were at the end of the season last year. Hopefully it's not the same, because we've seen the Phillies slump before and they get out of it. It's just they're a streaky team. When they're hot, they're the best team in baseball. When they're cold, they're the worst team in baseball. So it's a tough situation right now. And it's really led by Bryce Harper, who's won for his last 30, which just that can't continue. And it's not going to continue. I'm trying not to be too frustrated with this slump, but it's frustrating. Like, what else are you going to say when you've lost 5 straight series now? It's just they're not the same team that they were before. The pitching's been worse. The hitting's been worse. Everything's been worse. So hopefully it's just, a temporary thing and they figure their way out of this. Maybe this West Coast trip will snap themselves out of it, but I don't know. It's frustrating right now.
Yeah, I was there on Monday, and it was just, I'll tell you one thing. I mean, you remember the whole Mets invasion that happened last year or years before. That was depressing, but to see the Yankees fans there was probably even worse, just because they actually were backing up what they were saying, because the Phillies they didn't show up at all, especially the first game. I mean, that was embarrassing as hell. That was one of the most embarrassing losses I've ever seen a Phillies team suffer, to be honest. It just seemed like somebody honestly just kicked the living crap out of them, which they did. And it was sad to watch and see all those Yankees fans celebrate. And in the 2 other games you had right in your palm of your hands, like they were right there, and you just let them fall. You just let the Yankees have that game. You let them have both wins. And it's just been depressing, as Chris just said before. And this team needs to get back on track. I do think they will get back on track. I do feel like it's a little different scenario with what the Eagles went through, because the Eagles, it was a little different because it's football and this is baseball. There's way more games to bounce back. There's way more games to get acclimated and kind of just get back on the right track. So hopefully they do. And as Chris said as well, maybe they could switch something over on the West Coast, but I don't know. They need something that's going to help them, but God knows what's going to help them right now.
And their West Coast trip could actually be, I think, the day off today, and then going to play a team like the Mariners, who are not, one of the better teams, at least to my knowledge. And then before you go play the Dodgers, it's almost like a warm-up series. And today's like a day off. So I hope that time off and then that warm-up series against the Mariners, they can kind of, get their shit together, for lack of a better term, and figure it out, because they definitely got to get it together. August needs to be the month that, like, they just got the shit kicked out of them at the end of July there. That was not pretty. That was an ugly stretch for our Philadelphia Phillies. So hopefully they get it together. And I think that they will, but it's all got to start game by game. So just take it game by game against Seattle, win that game, then win that series, and then just get old momentum going into that LA series. And I think good things will happen.
Let me ask you guys this real quick. Do you think they're bored right now? Like, they've been just stomping teams this whole year, just clubbing the ball all over the place. Do you think they're bored and just ready for the postseason?
I don't think it's bored. I think they also are just exhausted. It seems like they're exhausted because, I mean, it is really a hot time right now. It's very, I feel like last year.
The weather's been awful for this.
Yeah, the weather's been so bad recently, and it just seems like they're drained from it. And that's what I'm getting from it. I mean, as you said before, Bryce Harper has just been god awful. I mean, 1 for 30 plus. I mean, that is just a horrible stat. It sounds like we're talking about Nick Castellanos, but it happens to be Bryce Harper. So I just think as a whole, I mean, he's one of the main like play starters. Like he's the main guy, obviously. Like he is a superstar. And when he's doing well, the team seems to be doing well. So that's what I feel like is the problem right now. He's the star of this team. He doesn't seem like he's on the right track right now. And that kind of feeds off. That energy kind of feeds off, I feel like, with the team. Because, I mean, you notice, too, Alec Boehm's kind of a guy who can also kind of spark the team as well. He's been leading the team in RBIs all season, so that's been great to see. But you haven't really seen that recently because Harper hasn't been doing his job, and some other guys, Schwarber hasn't been doing his job. Trey Turner hasn't been doing anything either. So, I mean, new guys like Austin Hayes had to step up, which was good to see, but it wasn't enough. And it's just, I don't know what it is, but I'm trying to figure it out. I mean, we could keep on trying to figure out what's going wrong. What are the missing pieces? I mean, maybe they should have went for some more pieces in the trade deadline, but I think they went for enough pieces. Just were they the right pieces? That I don't know. I don't know if they were. We'll get into that in a little bit.
I think the frustrating part is this is what's happened the last couple of years, right? Like they just go cold, and when this team goes cold, they're done.
Yeah.
And it's everybody at once. You can survive a guy like Bryce Harper going cold as long as the guys like Schwarber, Castellanos, Turner, Real Muto are still playing to what they should be playing.
But they're not, though. That's a problem.
But they're not. They all go cold at the same exact time. And that's what's killer with this team. But on the flip side is when they're hot, they're all hot, and they will steamroll teams. And we saw it through the postseason the last couple of years. They just steamroll through teams. So, I mean, I think we just have to take it with stride. And, I mean, we're going to talk about this trade deadline here in just a second. But, you know, people are like, oh, they should go trade for this superstar. And this, like, doesn't matter, right? The biggest thing with this team is as long as they're hot at the right time, they're fine. You don't know when that's going to happen. And hopefully that just it happens in the postseason again.
Yeah, because I remember, I'll compare this, not compare it to, but I remember 2 years ago in 2022 when we were god awful. I mean, in the regular season, and we just we made it in the playoffs by a game. I don't know if you remember that. We made it in by a game, and I remember freaking out about us losing to the Cubs in that regular season. I'll never forget that. But we got swept by the Mets that year and multiple times. So I had no idea that this team would actually sneak into the playoffs. And when they did, they had the momentum. And that's what happens in baseball as well. I mean, we've seen that with the Nationals as well. But, yeah, hopefully, I mean, they can kind of learn from that. And, I mean, they got so far that hopefully I mean, they're seeing this kind of downfall right now. Can they get over the hump? Can they get over this mountain of just depression and just a dry spell that they're having? I hope to God they do, because it is sad to watch in person. It's devastating.
Yeah, I think that they should be able to as well. Just give it time. August is going to be different, at least what I think. And that all starts with some of these new acquisitions, like Chris alluded to earlier as well. Austin Hayes, I think he's going to be a good piece for the Phillies. I heard him talk a little bit on 94 WIP. He called in, I think it was during the game yesterday. And they were just chatting with him, and they said, like, what's it like been here? Did you know anybody? And he didn't know anybody when he first came to Philadelphia. He had no like established relationships, never hung out with anybody. But he said that when he heard that Dombrowski had tried for 3 years in a row at the trade deadline to get him, and for those who don't know, for 3 years in a row, the Phillies manager, Dombrowski, has gone after this guy. 3 seasons in a row. The first 2 didn't get it done, and then finally got it done this year. That's going to make you feel great in a certain way. That's going to make you feel confident that this team wants you here. This team wants you a part of what they're building. So Austin Hayes, I think, his career is invigorated to a new level because he was kind of overshadowed by some of those younger guys and what they had going on in Baltimore. And I think he's really going to shine here in this Phillies roster in a time when we need a hero. We need somebody.
Yeah, he had a big game a couple of games ago. He had that homer. He had a nice diving catch in left field, so that was great to see as well. Yeah, he's been doing pretty decent for a guy that's only hit 3 home runs this season. And as Dalt said too, he was kind of in the shadows of the younger players back in Baltimore. So yeah, I think right away we were like, oh, geez, this guy isn't Luis Robert. Oh, this guy isn't Jazz Chisholm. But you know what, though? He's a guy who can bring you the energy. He does have the skills. It's just a matter of him actually doing it. And I hope he can. And it seems like he's already kind of feeling the city. He's kind of feeling the vibe, but I don't think he's felt once he feels the vibe of Bryce Harper and these guys when they're hot, I think it'll be good. It'll be a good scene for sure.
Yeah, here's the thing with this trade deadline. Teams were overpaying like crazy for guys. We saw Tanner Scott, who, he's a good closer, but he's not like top 5 in the league or anything like that, or like really trustworthy. He got 3 top 5 prospects for him. The Phillies gave up Seranthony Dominguez for Austin Hayes. I'm not sure if you guys saw this yet or not, but Christian Pache already got cut. So like that was 5 days. Christian Pache got cut. He's gone. This was Seranthony Dominguez, a pitcher that was struggling here and wasn't going to figure out here. Will he figure out in Baltimore? Maybe. He's got the stuff. We know that, but he wasn't fitting here. Austin Hayes is a absolutely perfect fit with Brandon Marsh. I think Austin Hayes should be the platoon player with Brandon Marsh. Hayes should play against lefties. Marsh should play against righties. It's not how they're using him right now, but I think that's how it's going to wind up being once you get to playoff time. He's a solid ball player. He's not going to hit 50 home runs or 30 home runs or even 20, but he's going to bat 270, play good defense, get on base, and be consistent. And that's something this team lacks, is that consistency. We just talked about the streakiness of Harper, Turner, Castellanos, Real Muto. They're all streaky. Hayes is consistent, and that's what they need, consistency. So I think this was a really good move. This isn't a move that's going to win you a World Series, but it's also just going to improve the team. And that's all this trade deadline was about, is just slightly improving the team. They weren't going to win the World Series with any of these moves.
And how do you feel, Chris, just what we have you there, about Tanner Banks, the new pitcher? Could that be a move? I've heard a lot of positive things about him, I will say. So what's your opinion on it?
So he's almost, to me, like the relief pitcher version of Austin Hayes. He's very good against lefties, not great against righties. They gave up a pretty good prospect for him in William Bergolla, who I was really high on. I saw him play a couple times in Jersey Shore. But they have so many infield prospects. It's like, you know what? If this is going to help you win now, go do it. It in the grand scheme of things, okay, if Bergolla winds up being anything, he's 19 years old right now. He might make it to the majors by the time he's 22, 23. At that point, like Bryce Harper's getting older, you don't worry about that. So I think this is a decent, it's a risk, but I think it's decent. We'll see what he is against lefties. But the other pitcher move they made, Carlos Estes, which unfortunately we don't have a graphic for, that was the move they made this deadline. He is he's I don't want to say he's a dominant closer, but he's a damn good closer. He's that guy who you can rely on. He's better than Craig Kimbrell. He is, he's just a good player. He gets overshadowed because he was out there with the Los Angeles Angels, who nobody gives a shit about because they have nothing besides Mike Trout, who Mike Trout is done for the year again. That's a good move for him. And they gave up some good prospects for him, but compared to what the rest of the market was, they were fine. That was a good move. And then, not only that, they go and recuperate 2 prospects for trading that piece of trash Gregory Soto. You guys all know who I feel about Gregory Soto. He sucks.
He's horrible.
They went out and got 2 very good prospects from the Orioles for Gregory Soto. That is absolute robbery. And Dave Dombrowski, yeah, okay, everybody, we want Luis Robert. Yeah, the guy who's batting .210. You know what? They improved this team without giving up much. That's all you can ask for. If you wanted to go get Robert, you were going to have to give up one of those top prospects. And I don't think they're in the position to give up those top prospects right now.
Yeah, I agree with that.
Do you have any thoughts on this guy, KJ, or anything?
I don't know too much about him. I know that Estes is an amazing closer. That's what I've heard as well. And another player that the Angels miss on for sure.
Mismanaged.
Yeah, they mismanaged. I mean, they did it with Shohei. They're doing it with Mike Trout, obviously. And Estes, I mean, not the caliber superstar like those guys, obviously. But another player that they can't really manage. They can't really keep his talent there because they obviously trade him away. But yeah, we're just gonna have to wait and see if these guys can fit with the Phillies system. I mean, we'll just have to wait and see.
Yeah, I think Estes is just a solid player.
Yeah. And
again, that's the same thing with Austin Hayes. He's just a solid player. If you get more of these solid players to go with these stars who get hot, that's those are the type of moves that do wind up winning you a World Series. One of those guys will not win you a World Series. You combine 3, 4, 5 of these guys, that's what gets you there. And they've been so close these last few years. These moves may put them over the edge. Only time will tell. Obviously, these things can go horribly wrong, but I think they're good moves in the moment right now.
Chris, do you think Estes can be like a Edwin Diaz kind of closer for us, or
no?
No. Yeah. Okay.
And I'll tell you this right now: they're never going to have an Edwin Diaz type player as long as they have Rob Thompson as their manager.
Right.
Because Rob Thompson does not know how to manage the bullpen, and that may be the biggest problem with this Phillies team is Rob Thompson. He's got no pulse over pitching whatsoever, especially with guys like Aaron Nola. Aaron Nola, I say it every single time. It's time to pull Aaron Nola.
Yeah.
They let him in there for 2 or 3 more guys. And, instead of Nola going 5 1/3 with giving up 1 run, he winds up going 5 2/3, giving up 4 runs in a tie ball game. So these are the things that I don't know how you get into Thompson's head with that. Be like, you know what? Hey, let's cut our losses here. Nola doesn't have it right now. Let's put in Estes. Let's put in Banks. Let's put in Alvarado. Let's put it they have so many horses in this bullpen that you shouldn't try to force Aaron Nola to go longer than what he can.
Well said. Well said. So we're going to kick it now to the court and dribble it out with KJ, our basketball expert on the show. And KJ, I'm reading an article the other day, my man. It says, Is Embiid not good enough for Team USA? Now, look, Team USA, I think, obviously has the depth that Embiid can afford to have a bad game here and there. Players like LeBron and others will obviously make up for that. But how does that make you feel as a Sixers fan, as a Team USA fan? Is it something that you're seeing? Some people were saying that maybe they'd like to see AD start over him or Bam Adebayo. I just can't, with the way that Embiid plays his athletic ability, I can't see why that would make sense. What do you think?
It's crazy that he was talking trash about LeBron before, because he was saying how, he thinks LeBron's too old. LeBron's not going to show the energy. I mean, LeBron's been going off for USA. I mean, you can love and hate. There's always going to be that love and hate thing with LeBron. You either love him or you hate him. And that's the thing with LeBron people or non-LeBron people. So he's been balling out. LeBron's been freaking putting this USA team on his back. But they also, a team that they kind of had some troubles with when they played in the exhibition was South Sudan. And we were like shocked that happened. They only beat them by, I think, 1 point or 2 points. But then in this game, they played them for the real deal this time, and they whooped them. And they beat them by at least, I feel like, 15, maybe 20 points. And it seemed like Embiid just, I don't know what it is, but maybe in the summer, and maybe he just shouldn't be playing in this game at all. He maybe should not be playing in the Olympics. I know he wanted to tribute to his son, but I still think he's going to be fine this season when he plays for the Sixers. I don't think it's going to bother him to the point that he's not going to play at the MVP level. I think it's going to make him even more motivated to go out there and just go crazy. I feel like he's not taking it as seriously as he should be taking it, because he was like, you know what, I'm going to go to USA. I want to go win. Well, you're not really doing your part, and you're not really – it doesn't seem like you're really trying, and you seem like you're very lethargic and tired for some reason. I don't know where that came from, but, I mean, we've seen that in the regular season with him. But, yeah, I think with Embiid, it's just like, should he be a starter? I don't know. With the effort I've been seeing, I mean, if they want to win the gold, I think you know what you got to do. Right now, he's cold. So, honestly, take him out. I think that's what you got to do.
I'm going to say this, and I don't know how to word it right, but to me, it feels like Embiid just doesn't have that second gear in big games. Like he doesn't get. It's not that he doesn't want to win, or just doesn't feel like when LeBron's in a game 7, LeBron's there. Embiid, it doesn't feel like that. Embiid, it feels like, it's just another game. And I don't know. I don't think it's that he doesn't care, but it just feels like Embiid's too nonchalant when it comes to these big games and these big moments. And then he's just not a playoff player I know this, the Olympics aren't playoffs, but it's kind of like that when you're in a high pressure situation type thing. Just don't think Embiid's built for it. And I think that's what's been so rough to watch as Sixers fans watching him in the playoffs. It feels like the same thing. And Embiid needs the ball in his hands, and it's just not happening with his Team USA. He's not going to get the ball 24/7 because he's not the best player on the team. He's just not. He's a very good basketball player, but he's not the best.
It's a different structure, obviously. Like for the Sixers, he's one of the top players. Here, it's a little different. Steve Kerr doesn't really want to play where, it's okay, let's just let Joel Embiid ball out. He doesn't want to play like that. It doesn't seem like that at all. So that's the difference, I feel like, where I'm not so worried about how Embiid's going to do during the season, because I think he's going to be fine. It's a totally different kind of situation, and where they don't really need him to ball out too much because they already have a bunch of other players that can go ball out. You got Jason Tatum, who's an NBA champion as well. You got Drew Holiday, his teammate as well. So you got guys over there on Team USA that if Embiid is cold and Embiid can't dominate the game, those guys can go dominate. So that's what I see from right now.
Do you worry about his national reputation with this tournament?
Yes and no. I feel like, obviously, as I said before, honestly, I think it is like there's other superstars around him. So I feel like it kind of is like a different role for him. But I do think like, oh, people are gonna be like, yeah, I mean, Jokic is better. You kind of see what it is. But then also Serbia is not really winning too much right now either. I mean not either, but they're not winning right now. They lost to us, I think, by like 20 plus, something like that. But Jokic is putting up the stats, and he honestly is like the superstar.
All I know is Furkan Korkmaz averages more points in foreign play than Joel Embiid does.
Yeah, that's not a good thing.
That's
And
crazy.
Yeah.
to answer your question,
Furkan,
too,
hey,
Chris,
in all these tournaments, Furkan dominates.
yeah, there you go. And to answer your question too, I think that's a great question about his national reputation. That's a good perspective. I would say yes and no. I think the way he performs could impact it. If he does well, everybody's gonna love him because it's USA. Like I saw a dipshit Cowboys fan today in the NFC East shit talking group that said, I will root for every single athlete in the Olympics, except for all of those scumbag Philly athletes. And it was funny because I saw another Dallas fan in the comments like, hey, dipshit, like this makes no sense. We're all on the same team in this. Like, root for him. So going off of that, I think that USA fans will sort of Embiid's going to get brownie points with a lot of teams and a lot of fans that maybe he had bad blood with before. Minnesota fans with that old Karl Anthony Towns thing that he had going on. I think that Embiid has a lot of opportunity to get a lot of brownie points with those fans, Raptors, Knicks, Minnesota Timberwolves,
and
teams
Embiid,
that he's had bad blood with.
Embiid could have played for a lot of different teams in the Olympics, but he chose to play for USA.
Yeah.
So I think that's what everybody needs to like calm down and respect. Like, even if Joel Embiid isn't, the 30-point per game Joel Embiid or anything like that, he's still a 7'3" dominant defensive center who you need on a team. Yeah. I mean, when you come down and playing against, I don't know, maybe they're going to play Serbia in the final or in the gold medal. I don't know how the whole structure works.
Yeah,
I honestly barely watch it. But, if they come down and he's got to play against Jokic, I'll tell you what, he's going to make sure Jokic doesn't score as much as he does against other teams. That's for sure. And if he can just limit Jokic, the rest of Serbia, the rest of the Serbian team, the rest of the other teams, if you can shut down their star player, USA is going to blow them out of the water because USA is just stacked with everybody. I mean, when you got LeBron, KD, Tatum, like it's stacked. AD. So, if you could slow down their star player, it's over. It doesn't matter.
Yeah, I agree.
Stay tuned. The Olympics have been, I don't know. Don't even get me started on that. I think that they haven't been entertaining as a whole, but that's a story for another day and conspiracy theory for another day. Taking back to 2008, Beijing. That was where it was at, in my opinion. But cool. Obviously, when you're a kid, everything's new. Now, we were there today, so I will say this. It was an experience. First off, I want to give a huge thank you to our sponsors over at TickPick for making the whole experience possible. It was a ton of fun. We got on-field access, a ton of great content coming for you guys. But we got an up-close and personal look. I'm not wearing his jersey. It's down in the washer because I got a stain on it. I got to get it out. Yep. But we got an up-close and personal look at Saquon Barkley. And I'll say this, man, he looks fluid. He looks confident. He looks talented. And he just looks like a freak of nature coming off the ball. His speed, his power, it's going to be very hard for defenses to bring him down this year. So I'm taking Saquon Barkley. I want to say 1,300 yards. I'll be modest and say 1,250. Book it. I think he's going to go over that this year. I think it's going to be a big year for him rushing-wise. And then that's going to also, in return, help Jalen Hurts develop as that passer that we wanted to see the past couple of years. I think Jalen Hurts is going to go over 4,000 passing yards, and I think Saquon's going to go for over 1,200 rushing yards, which could be a monumental thing for Eagles fans. I don't know about the receivers because that's a lot of ball to go around after that. Like, he can only do a couple of things well, but I will go out and go out on a whim saying that.
Yeah, the receivers look dominant. We were talking about some catches that we saw A.J. Brown have today, Devontae as well. So it was good to see those guys doing well. Saquon, yeah, he looks freaking ferocious over there. I mean, we were like 2 feet away from the guy, and it was just intimidating being near him because it's just like,
Scarier.
holy crap, this guy
Dude,
is.
yeah.
This guy's not versing us now. He's actually on our team, and it's still like I think for the first time, like as Dalt was saying a couple months ago, we actually felt like, okay, this is for real. He's actually an Eagle now. We saw it on Lincoln Financial Field. Saquon's ours now, so it's awesome to see that. Come to reality. And then also, I felt like Jalen really looked like he was just in this Mamba Kobe Bryant mode where he was just like, everybody else was kind of either like they were doing their own thing, they were distracted or whatever, but he was just like not talking to anybody, just thinking about, you can obviously think about like what he's thinking about. And he's thinking about football, obviously. And he just seems like he just has something to prove, like something last year. As Chris was saying as well, that they had a horrible dry spell where they went off, and obviously they had that big losing streak, and then obviously they lost. But I think he has revenge, he has vengeance, and he wants to go out there and just shut the freaking Chris Sims of the world, shut them down. Even though Chris Sims actually been positive with him this year, which is a crazy stat to hear about. But yeah, I think he just wants to shut up the critics, and he just wants to go out there and ball out. So I'm pumped to see what he's got in the tank.
Yeah, I am very, very, very concerned about the defense. Yes, the offensive looked absolutely stellar, but how much is that just the defense, being the same defense as they were last year? That's my biggest concern is, sure, we got Vic Fangio, but it's still overall very close to the same scheme they ran the last few years. It hasn't worked for this team. That really, really worries me. Yeah, you can mask some of that with a good offense, but as we saw in the Super Bowl, that offense was really good in the Super Bowl. They still didn't win because their defense couldn't make a stop at all. So I'm concerned. Now, I've heard some really good things about Quinyon Mitchell, which is great, but it's more than Quinyon. Are the linebackers going to tackle? Are the safeties going to be any good? I just don't know. And, there's a lot of people, already declaring the Super Bowl champions. I just can't do that with this, with the way this defense is. And I've seen this before with, the offense is so great. Maybe the defense just sucks. That's scary to me.
Yeah. We've been hearing a lot of good things too. I think Dalton was talking about Zach Braun was one
Zach
of them.
Bond, I think, is going to be a good player for us. And I was talking about it with John Clark today. Shout out to John Clark. We'll get to that in a minute. But John was so generous and gracious with his time. But I asked John, I said, linebacker too is a position that's up for grabs right now for our Eagles. Who do you think is going to take it? And he said, obviously, as a Philadelphia fan, I want to say Jeremiah Trotter Jr., but it could be anybody's game. And Zach Bond is somebody who is getting the reps right now. He looks pretty good. He was good last year in New Orleans. He had, I think it was 2 sacks and 1 pick. He's going to be a stud for us, so stay tuned. But, Chris, I wanted to ask you, too, the question that we were asking people today, which I think you'll love this question. By the end of his career, will Saquon Barkley be better known as a Philadelphia Eagle or a New York Giant?
Mm-hmm. See, he's not going to play as long in Philly because it's just not. It's not. What do you play? 5 or 6 years?
It's going to be what, 3 years max? I bet here max.
Yeah, probably
3 years.
He's probably done after 2. I would assume, because that's just how the contract is.
He's going to go to an irrelevant franchise that's going to pay him a shit ton of money, and then he's going to probably finish it out there, right? That's what I see.
It all depends if he gets a ring.
Yep.
If he wins a ring and he's dominant here, like if he gets one of those 13 or 1,400 yard seasons here, right, 2 seasons of 13 or 1,400 yards, he could be well known as an Eagle and win a Super Bowl. If he doesn't win a Super Bowl, I don't think he's going to get very well known as an Eagle. I think it's going to be still a Giant. And the Giants fans aren't going to like that either because they think he's a snake. So, That's going to be interesting for sure. I mean, it's really going to be up to him. Does he want to be known as an Eagle or does he want to be known as a Giant?
And it's
Win a
almost going to
Super
put a lot
Bowl.
of pressure on him too. You know what I mean? Like you were kind of alluding to, like with the Giants fans, he burned that bridge, so he can't go back there now. So it's like it's almost do or die for him with the Eagles fans, right? Like,
Yeah, it is. And, I think Eagles fans will be a lot more accepting of Saquon than other running backs because it's Saquon Barkley and he's got
Insane.
all this talent. But there's also the fact that, he's still very injury prone. Like, we know this. And, hopefully they don't use him as much as the Giants used him. You keep saying the 1,300 yard. I don't care. I hope he stays healthy more than anything. If he gets 800 yards and is healthy Saquon in the playoffs, that matters to me way more than a 12 or 1,300 yard season. Hell, I'd rather take him with 800 yards and Will Shipley and Kenneth Gainwell get 500 yards apiece or something like that. I'd rather that happen. But it's all about health to me with Saquon. You get a healthy Saquon in the playoffs, he's gonna break big plays. Like, he's just a home run threat. We know this.
yeah. Yeah, I think it could be a good season for Saquon. So we'll see. But that's pretty much all I got. I don't know if you guys have anything else. I know it was a little bit of a lighter show this week. We don't have much going on in Philly sports. Also, for some context, if you guys are watching this Saturday morning, which you are, we are filming this Thursday night, August 1st. It's like 11:30 at night. So if anything crazy happens in Philly sports, I know the trade deadline just happened for the MLB. So we should be pretty settled down with that. But if anything crazy happens, that's why we're not talking about it. But hopefully we will see. Do the Phillies play tomorrow night in Seattle?
Yes.
Yes.
Cool.
Yeah.
So hopefully they bounce back tomorrow night. And like I said, I mean, Eagles training camp was a ton of fun today. We'll have content coming out for you guys with that on Sippin' Sports, on 302 Birds, both of them. So stay tuned for that.
We'll be at the Phillies game on Monday.
We'll be at the
In
Phillies game on
LA.
Monday, yeah.
In LA. So that'd be pretty crazy. We both have never been to Dodger Stadium. I mean, it's a great stadium, I've heard, and hopefully the Phillies bounce back by then.
Look for two guys that are drunk with their shirts off, swinging them like towels and Phillies hats, and you'll know who's us. No, I'm kidding. But in all seriousness, it may be easy to find us in a stadium full of blue hats. Look for the two red ones. So
I would venture to say there's going to be a lot more Phillies fans there than you think.
Yeah, you might be right.
And shout out to Jeff, Alyssa's dad. We want to thank him for hooking us up with the tickets. So
Jeff.
we may actually have, usually when Dalton buys them out cheap ass over here, you're not going to be seen on TV because you're up in the nosebleeds. But with Jeff, we got really good seats. So we might actually be seen on TV or catching some balls. So stay tuned.
Yeah. I know you love to catch them balls.
Oh, you know it, baby. You know it. I was setting somebody up for it. I'm glad you alley-ooped it. But that's all we got. Like we said, we want to appreciate you guys, as always, for joining us. And like I said, in case anything crazy or wild happens, don't kill us. Don't hate us. Just let us know in the comments. And we'll get to it next week. As always, God bless. Go Birds. I hope everybody takes care, has a good one, and let's do it.